everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today I'm going to bring you my spoiler-free review of The Well of Ascension, written by Brandon Sanderson. So this book is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, the first book being The Final Empire, written by Brandon Sanderson. I have a full spoiler-free and spoiler review of that book already up on my channel. So I feel like this review is like yet another Mistborn review, like I said in the last one, but I'm trying to make a point of reviewing as many books as I can on my channel because a lot of you come to my channel based on my reviews. You love to hear what I have to say, you respect my opinions, so here we go, spoiler-free, The Well of Ascension. The Well of Ascension takes place a couple of months after the events of the Final Empire. So we have Vin, we have Elend, we have the thieving crew, we have the Ska peoples, and there was a big cataclysmic event that happened at the very end of the Final Empire. Elend has taken the post of king in the Central Dominance, and he has written into law a council of his peers that includes merchants, that includes noblemen, that includes Ska. And so the beginning of our book really sets us off into this new venture, no pun intended, this new way of living inside the city, inside Luthadel, inside the Central Dominance. It follows along Vin, Elend, the crew, and the choices that each other makes while trying to uphold these new rules and get used to this new way of life and this new way of living inside the Central Dominance. The world building in this book, in comparison to the Final Empire, I would say is much more of a slow burn when it comes to world building, because this book, there's a siege taking place. There are 3 enemy armies that have marched upon Luthadel and are challenging Elend's right to the throne and challenging for the throne of the Central Dominance. Because of the nature of a siege, because of the nature of the different politics at play, you're gonna get a look inside a very different city than what we found in the Final Empire because of this cataclysmic event that happened at the very end of the Final Empire. You're gonna get a look inside what has happened in the past as well. There's a lot of different passages inside this book of different characters going through the library, going through and reading different accounts of what has happened before. There's a minor bit of travel to different parts of the kingdom because of one of our main characters in this book, Zane, and he travels to different areas, encounters different Ska, and so this is just so much slower. There's so much world building that you could dissect from just this book alone, and I think it was purposefully set up that way. This book, to me, felt like it was very much the middle bridge book, and it was intentionally done that way. It was intended to be this middle, slower book of figuring out where these different politics lie, figuring out the mind frame of the different characters, and figuring out where each of these characters and their places in this new world. The characters that we follow in here, we have Elend Venture, who has become king of Luthadel inside the Central Dominance. And then we have Vin, who is our Mistborn from the last book. Elend Venture, who was Vin's love interest from the first book, and he was the son of a very high, wealthy nobleman, pretty much the main prominent noble family. He was the firstborn son, the heir to this nobleman's wealth. So he's a scholar, and he's always been a scholar, but a lot of the scenes that we get from Elend in this book are him trying to piece together what does it mean for him to be king. He was normally not taken very seriously because he was just this, you know, mishmash scholar. He never really cared about his appearance because he really only cared about what his ideas were and bringing his ideas to life with his friends. So this book, we lose a little bit of that youthful, bright naivete that he had before, and that's a good thing. He initially puts these laws in place thinking that everybody's going to be for these new policies without really taking into consideration that other people might have their own political goals and gains that they're trying to make. And that's something that we see him do time and time and time again, thinking that people are going to approach the problems the same way as him when they're definitely not. He is morphing into his own person and his own character in this wheel of politics that have been going on inside the Final Empire. Vin has also grown in this book. She is a very powerful Mistborn. She's also trying to question what is her place inside this new empire. She is the most powerful Mistborn that people have ever met. she is the most powerful person on their team. And what does that do to her? She begins to question whether or not the people that she's with understand what it's like for her, understand the needs that she has as this person with all these powers and with all this magic that is yet to be explored. And also, she does begin to question and she does begin to search, is there someone out there who can equal me? And is there someone out there who truly understands me and the things that I can bring to the table as a female and as this really powerful Mistborn who's still coming into her own power. There's a lot of questioning that Vin does inside this book. So again, it's just like a slow burn with all of the characters, all of the thoughts that they're having. Then we also get a lot of point of views from Sazed. He was one of my favorite characters inside the Final Empire. He is this race of people, the Terrace people, who are the keepers of knowledge. He originally, at the end of the Final Empire, decided he wanted to leave the politics in this world behind, and he just wanted to teach and begin to share his knowledge that has been his life's work with the Ska people. But events brought him back into the fold. Events brought him back to the Central Dominance. His place inside this book was really to help us piece together the things that we have been missing from this historical context. So Sazed really helps the reader, I feel, get involved inside this world and understand the deeper connections that are happening. He's also trying to solve the mystery of what is the deepness. He's trying to solve the mysteries of what happened before with the Well of Ascension. We get a lot of really good scenes with him and he plays a really vital role for the reader. We do meet a new Mistborn named Zane. He might have been my favorite new character. He's this Mistborn that kind of came out of nowhere. He's intriguing to Vin and Vin is likewise intriguing to him. We don't really know at the beginning of the book who has sent him, what his motives are, and as the book goes on, it becomes clear who he's working for. It becomes clear that he might have his own set of goals aside from the person who is sending him forth to do their bidding. And there I feel like was a little bit of a missed moment with Zane because there's this mental health aspect to him that I feel like as a reader I would have really liked to explore that a little bit more. It was a little bit sad to me because I feel like they tried to play him off as this villain who was also mentally unstable, and I just am always a little bit sad to see that combination as if that's the explanation for his eccentricities. But he was one of my favorite new characters that we met inside this book. Overall, I didn't actually get along that well with this book. My thoughts on the plot were that it just moved too slow. And I read a lot of slow books. I've read a lot of slow burn character and world building. There were a lot of moments in this book that I felt like were just a repeat of another scene that we had read before. And there got to be a point in this book where I did end up just kind of like flipping through, skimming through. I'm not gonna lie. The powers in here, the allomantic powers, while they were really intriguing in the first book, and I feel like we just got so much more use out of the allomancy in the first book and the magic system and understanding what each of the characters had to bring to the table, this book, it just didn't read the same way. It was just a little bit dry to me. Some of the fight scenes that we had, I wasn't really drawn into the fight scenes. To be honest, I was like, well, it's the same pushing and pulling and these coin shots and like jumping off of this and pulling off of the coin and pushing off of the coin. It was several pages of that at any given time, and it just kept repeating. Now, it could be a critique on how mundane a siege can truly be when you're being trapped inside your city and you're just kind of holed up there waiting for reinforcements or waiting for someone to make a move. It could have been a reflection on what it's truly like to be under a siege and just not that much stuff happens when you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. But to me, it didn't make for a really great reading experience that way because of that. There's not a lot of stuff that actually happens in here in true Brandon Sanderson style, from what I've heard from other people, from what I've now experienced in 2 books. The big kablah happens in the last 100 pages, but it was a struggle for me to make it through this book. If you follow me along on Twitter, you saw that I was having some thoughts about this book. I just was like, I'm so bored. Like, I'm now page 300, nothing's happened. I'm now page 500 and nothing has happened. And it was a little bit of a test for me to persevere, because at that point I just wanted this book to be over with. It wasn't as engaging for me as I wanted it to be. So unfortunately I did end up rating this book 2 out of 5 stars, which was a huge surprise to me because I rated The Final Empire 5 out of 5 stars. I thought this trilogy would be like a slam dunk the whole way through, but this book truly read to me like it was the middle book of a series. So I feel like this book, there are 2 different camps. Either people really, really love this book for all of the world building and the time that it takes to set us up for the next book in the series, or there's people in the camp like me where they thought that this was just too much, this was too slow. I don't think I've seen anybody rate this book as low as I've did. I rated it 2 stars. I saw some people knock some points off because of how slow it was, and then the ending saved it, but to me, by the time I got to the ending, I was over it. So that's why I rated it 2 out of 5 stars, unfortunately. So, I mean, like I said, lots of stuff happened, lots of stuff to bring us into the next book. It's not totally turned me off the series. It's not turned me off Brandon Sanderson. I know that there's a good story in there somewhere, and so I just can't wait to see what happens in The Hero of Ages, which is the final book of the trilogy, and we'll see when I end up beginning that book. I've got some books already planned for my The One Readathon TBR, and so that's why I won't begin that one soon, but I would like to begin it sooner than letting so many months go in between the 2 books before I begin the next one. Do you think the same way that I do? Do you disagree with me? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it because I know that this is such a well-loved series. But you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want to know what I'm thinking when I'm reading a book. Usually I'll live tweet some thoughts of books that I'm currently reading. So that's going to be at @WhatCastRead. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. That's super easy to find. And then, of course, my Goodreads link is always going to be down below. Otherwise, you know how these videos end. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.